This is the tragic story of the Low Moor explosion in 1916 Bradford. 40 people were killed and over 100 people injured. This podcast is getting into the true events that happened that day and paying respects to those who lost their lives. Now let's get into the story.
Okay, imagine this. A factory where the chemicals are so strong, the workers, their skin, their hair, even their teeth turn bright yellow. They were actually called canaries.
Right.
Now picture that same place, middle of World War I, suddenly just erupting, a blast so huge, people heard it 35 miles off.
Wow.
Yeah, and so loud it left a 7-year-old boy deaf for life. That's the kind of scale we're talking about with the Low Moor explosion. August 21st, 1916.
It's a huge event.
It really is. A massive tragedy on Britain's home front, but, it often gets overshadowed. So in this deep dive, we're going to pull apart the sources, really try to understand the full story, how this dye factory became, well, a ticking time bomb, and what its complicated legacy tells us about wartime sacrifice.
And to really get the weight of that day, you have to put yourself back in Britain, summer of 1916. It's bleak.
The Somme?
Exactly. The Battle of the Somme is just consuming lives at an unbelievable rate. The whole country is geared towards the war effort. Factories making everyday things. They're rapidly switched over to munitions, absolutely vital.
Yeah.
But this created these unique and, well, often deadly dangers for civilian workers, people far from any trench. The Low Moor explosion, it's kind of a stark example of how sacrifice and, frankly, horror weren't just on the battlefield. It really makes you think about the difficult compromises, sometimes catastrophic ones, a nation makes when it thinks its survival is on the line.
That context is crucial, isn't it?
Yeah.
It makes you ask, how did this place, the Low Moor Chemical Company, LMCC, end up right in the middle of it all?
Yeah.
I mean, this was a big deal back then, late 19th century. Bradford, world leader in carpets, apparently.
That's right.
And their main product, picric acid, great for its bright yellow color dyes.
Which is why the workers were yellow.
Exactly. The canaries, skin, hair, teeth, yellow. But here's the kicker. Picric acid, it had this other life, a powerful one.
High explosive.
Right. The military knew it. They tested a version called lyddite way back in 1888. Potent stuff. And LMCC itself, they'd actually applied to make it as an explosive in 1898. That's what, 16 years before the war?
Which is fascinating, isn't it? That civilian capability was already there, and then it was just so aggressively repurposed. You had the shell crisis in 1915.
Oh, yeah, when they realized they just didn't have enough shells.
Precisely. Britain was desperate. So the Ministry of Munitions took over LMCC, renamed it Factory Number 182, Yorkshire. And the demand, it just went through the roof.
How much are we talking?
Well, before the war, maybe 35 tons of picric acid a week. By 1916, nearly 200 tons a week.
Wow, that's a huge jump. 5 times.
A 5-fold increase, yeah. And that kind of exponential surge, driven by sheer national urgency, it undeniably pushed speed over everything else, including safety.
Okay, so let's picture the day itself. Monday, August 21st, 1916. Nice sunny day, actually. School holidays, funnily enough.
Right.
Factory's got about 220 staff on, a few less than usual, maybe 30, lots of them Belgian refugees, apparently. And the crew bit, around 30,000 pounds of picric acid just sitting there, waiting to be sampled or shipped out.
And then around 2:25 in the afternoon, the spark. A worker, James Broughton, he's moving these drums of picric acid, 11 of them, and they're uncovered.
Uncovered. That sounds like a bad idea.
It absolutely was against regulations. As he's unloading one, he hears this sizzling noise, sees the acid inside the drum just burst into flames, knocks him right back.
Oh, my God.
Another worker, Fred Stobart, sees the fire from the lab. There's no fire alarm, nothing, just workers shouting, "Get out! Get out!"
Just shouting, no formal alarm.
Apparently not. The sprinkler system was supposedly turned on, but the accounts are a bit hazy on whether water actually came out. But the workers, they knew. They knew what picric acid could do. They knew a massive explosion was coming. It was just a frantic scramble.
And it came. About, 10, 15 minutes later?
Around 2.45.
Yeah, the packing shed went up, the first great blast, and it was immense. Think just a colossal cloud of smoke, a fireball.
No.
Reports say it was heard 35 miles away in York.
35 miles. The shockwave felt clearly 3 miles away in Great Horton. Debris bricks, bits of metal scattered for miles. A big piece landed over a mile away in Scholes. And this smell, like bad eggs, distinctive.
Horrible. And the works manager, John Majerus, his father was the fire chief, wasn't he?
That's right. Poignant detail. He was seen directing firemen initially, then he went into the wreckage. He actually crawled out hours later, around 6 p.m., but died that night. Shock. Gas poisoning.
It's such a tragic story, but it wasn't over, was it? There was another blast.
Oh, the horror continued. Bradford Central Fire Station got the call at 2:33 p.m. Chief Officer Scott and 18 men rushed out in their brand-new motorized engine, the Hayhurst.
Their new engine.
Yeah. Crews from Odsall and Nelson Street responded too, plus 3 guys from Skipton, William Anslow, Harry Blakey, George Metcalf. The Hayhurst gets there, positions itself maybe 30 yards inside the gate, and then around 3:16 p.m., the second explosion hits, much bigger.
Oh, no.
It just obliterated the Hayhurst, completely destroyed it, killed 6 firemen instantly. Instantly. Fragments of the engine were found nearly 5 miles away. Heckman Wake Railway Station. Some of the bodies were so badly damaged they could only be ID'd by the numbers on their axes.
That's just brutal.
It was. The Odsall engine got crushed too, killing 2 more firemen. Anslow and Blakey from Skipton, badly injured. Burns, shock, gas poisoning. Blakey was temporarily paralyzed. Metcalf, the 3rd Skipton man, miraculously walked away unharmed.
Incredible luck for him amidst all that. It just kept exploding.
Oh, yeah, over 20 explosions just on that first day. And crucially, flying debris hit a gasometer at the Bradford Corporation gasworks next door.
Oh, that sounds bad.
Very bad. Released 270,000 cubic feet of gas, which then ignited another massive fireball. People felt the heat nearly a mile away. The sound, that's what apparently deafened that poor 7-year-old boy.
Just unimaginable chaos.
And the fire spread. Damaged the neighboring dye works, the Low Moor Iron Works, wrecked the railway lines. It took 3 whole days to finally put it out.
3 days. The scale is just staggering, isn't it?
Truly is.
So once the immediate danger passed, the question became, why? How could this happen? And at first, suspicion actually fell on some of the Belgian workers who weren't there that day.
That's right. Which seems a bit odd now, but it even led to a brief investigation into German sabotage? Wartime paranoia, perhaps?
But that didn't last long.
No, it was quickly and thoroughly debunked. They found all the Belgian workers. They had perfectly good reasons for being absent. Sabotage was completely ruled out.
Okay, so no sabotage.
Right.
What did the official investigation find? It was accident 37919 on scene, led by a Major Cooper Key.
Yes, and the coroner's inquest followed in September. Their conclusion was, well, no criminal negligence by any specific individual, but, and this is key, they added a significant rider.
Which said what?
It pointed to a certain amount of carelessness or neglect and a failure to stick to the regulations. So it wasn't pinning it on one person, but hinting at something bigger.
So not one person's fault, but more like the system failed. Was the whole environment just set up for disaster because of the war pressure?
That's exactly what it points towards. The inquiry uncovered really serious breaches of the factory's license, the Explosives Act.
Like what specifically?
Well, critically, they were storing more than double the amount of picric acid they were licensed for.
Double.
Yeah, which vastly increased the potential size of any explosion. Then there were the drums for transport, often left uncovered. Remember James Broughton moving uncovered drums?
Right, when the fire started.
Exactly. They were meant to be covered to protect from things like, say, hot cinders from coal fires. And the unloading platform meant to be rubber-faced to stop sparks wasn't always used. They were unloading drums straight onto Yorkshire sets.
That's rough stone pavings.
Yeah, totally unsuitable, whisking damage, starks. And worse, there was a pattern here. Several small fires had actually happened in the storage magazines in the 6 months before the big one.
Really? Small fires?
Yes, but they weren't reported to the authorities. They were just evidently ignored, as the report put it. All because of the push for output.
So it really does sound like a systemic problem, not just one mistake on the day.
Precisely. It wasn't criminal negligence by one person, but it came from this culture of systemic compromise. And that culture was directly fueled by the intense pressure of wartime production. Safety was basically sidelined to maintain the highest possible level of production.
Given special concession was the phrase.
Special concession towards the extreme urgency of the national requirements. That's it. The jury's verdict, in a way, it suggests that this state-driven push for output created an environment where an accident like Low Moor wasn't just possible, it was almost, statistically likely.
A profound point about total war, really. How safety itself becomes a casualty.
Absolutely.
And the specific technical cause, it ties right back into those failings, doesn't it? Iron picric.
Yes, that was determined to be the trigger. So those drums they used, originally tin-plated for protection, but all that use, rolling them on those rough stone sets, it wore the tin away. expose the iron underneath.
Then picric acid reacts with iron.
That's exactly. Stable on its own, mostly. But with metals like iron, it forms picrites. And iron picrate is much more explosive, way more sensitive to friction impact.
So the theory is a bit of friction or a knock during handling ignited the iron picrate on the damaged drums.
That's the most likely scenario, yes. So not sabotage, not malice, just a preventable tragedy born from chemical reactions and regulatory failure, driven by wartime pressure.
And the human cost was just devastating. Early reports said 34 dead, 60 injured.
Yeah, those were conservative. The accurate tally we have now is 40 dead and around 100 injured. That includes factory workers, the first responders, civilians caught up in it. One body was so badly damaged it couldn't be identified for a while later, thought to be Thomas Woodfine.
40 dead. And the memorial plaque gives a breakdown.
It does, and it's grim reading. 28 plant workers died. That includes a 17-year-old, Maurice Hainsworth, and the manager, John Majerus.
Right, Majerus.
Then the 6 firemen killed in that second blast, identified by their axe numbers. 3 workers from Sharp's Dye Works next door. 1 policeman, Constable Harold Reveley. 1 railway fireman, Henry Richard Tunks. And 1 member of the public, Martha Briggs.
Just ordinary people caught up in it?
40 lives lost in total. And 5 more people died later from the injuries they sustained that day.
It's just heartbreaking when you hear the individual stories. Majerus directing the firefighters, then dying himself. Those firemen, identified by their tools.
Brutal deaths. And the Skipton men Anslow with severe burns, Blakey poisoned by gas, temporarily paralyzed, and Metcalf just walking away. Sheer chance.
And you mentioned a bride hit by flying glass.
Yeah, accounts mentioned that too, just lacerated right after her wedding. The human impact radiated outwards.
And the physical damage was immense too. The factory itself, the gasworks, gone.
Completely destroyed. The neighboring factory seriously damaged. Around 2,000 home damaged, windows blown out up to 2 miles away. 50 houses were so bad they had to be demolished.
2,000 homes.
3 local schools had to close. 1 didn't reopen until January the next year. Infrastructure crippled, train lines ruined, 30 railway carriages destroyed, another 100 damaged. People lost their homes, displaced. Their lives just turned upside down.
And getting this story out at the time was hard, wasn't it? Because of the war. Censorship.
Absolutely. The fog of war, inaction, wartime censorship was strict. Newspapers were severely limited in what they could report. They weren't even allowed to name the factory locations, standard practice apparently.
Which the Ministry of Munitions defended.
They did. Local papers like the Bradford Daily Telegraph reported what they could within limits. The Yorkshire Observer actually seemed to downplay it, saying the loss of life was not so serious as at first seemed probable.
Which we now know was completely wrong.
Totally wrong. And of course, the whole story was just dwarfed by the news from the Somme. The casualty lists from France were just horrific.
But the story did get out locally, didn't it? Despite the official silence.
That's the really interesting part, yeah. You can't censor word of mouth, can you? News spread like wildfire around Bradford. The site itself became this gruesome tourist attraction. Thousands of people apparently went there just to look.
Thousands, just to see the destruction.
Seems so. Like a public need to see it, to understand it maybe. It kind of overcame the state's attempt to control the narrative. And you saw that same public feeling with the funeral for the firemen.
Huge crowds turned out for that, right?
Thousands. A massive public display of grief, gratitude, mourning. It really went beyond anything the censored newspapers could convey. It shows this critical contradiction, doesn't it? The government controlled the print news, but they couldn't control that communal feeling, that shared sense of tragedy.
It's a powerful image, that collective grief. So looking at the legacy now, it raises difficult questions about how we remember, who gets remembered.
It really does. There's a stark contrast. For the firefighters, a public memorial was unveiled in 1924, Low Moor Cemetery. Funded by public subscription, stone statue of a fireman, names of the 6 men. It's now at the West Yorkshire Fire Service HQ, rededicated on the centenary. They got medals too. Their sacrifice was very publicly marked, fitting that traditional idea of uniformed heroism.
Okay, so the firefighters were remembered publicly. What about the factory workers?
And that's where the disparity lies. It's deeply felt, even today. There's no equivalent public memorial for the factory workers in Low Moor itself. Their names were eventually put on a plaque, but it was on the Bradford Dyers Association War Memorial, a private institution.
Not a public space.
No. Which caused some heartburning in the local community, understandably. That plaque later moved to the Industrial Museum, but still, no public memorial in Low Moor for the munitions workers who died.
That does seem unequal.
It suggests a kind of societal bias, maybe, from that era. The firemen's courage visible, traditional, was celebrated with public money. The factory workers' deaths, just as much as sacrifice for the war, were sort of relegated to a private commemoration, as if their service was somehow less worthy of public recognition.
And despite the sheer scale of it, 40 dead, hundreds injured, thousands of homes damaged out. It faded from national memory relatively quickly.
Largely, yes. In peacetime, an event like this would dominate discussion for years. But against the backdrop of the Somme, millions dying on the Western Front, home front tragedies like Low Moor just got overshadowed. Understandable, perhaps, but still sad. Subsequent generations largely forgot about it.
But local groups have kept the memory alive.
Thankfully, yes. Local history groups have done incredible work. Commemorative events, centenary productions, memorial services. They've really fought to ensure the sacrifice of those who died serving on the home front isn't completely lost.
So wrapping this up, it's clear Low Moor wasn't just some random accident. It was complex, it was preventable, a whole cascade of failures.
Definitely. Improper handling, creating that unstable iron picric.
Ignoring safety rules about storage, about covering the drums.
And ignoring the warning signs. Those earlier small fires should have been a massive red flag.
And all these failures were really symptoms, weren't they? Symptoms of that incredible pressure to churn out munitions for the war. The factory became this crucible where the desperate need for defense just trampled over safety.
Absolutely. And if you zoom out, the disaster offers these enduring lessons, doesn't it, about total war. You see the limits of government control when you compare the censorship with the community's raw collective grief. That local solidarity was powerful. And then there's that painful difference in how the firefighters and the factory workers were memorialized. It's a really poignant historical critique, asking us how we value different kinds of sacrifice. Low Moor is just such a critical reminder of war's hidden costs, the dangers faced far from the front lines, and that ongoing struggle for everyone who served, in whatever capacity, to be recognized equally.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? What other hidden costs are buried in our histories, or even in major efforts today? How does looking back like this help us see the true, full cost of sacrifice?